Hi guys, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about mental health in photography and why you should give a crap about it. If you haven't already, please do remember to press the subscribe button and subscribe to this channel because I'm not a completely horrible human being and I might enrich your life and that would be great. I wanted to sit and talk to you today. I've been sick for the last couple of weeks, but there's something that's been on my mind that I really want to discuss. And that is mental health and mental well-being within photography. You guys know I've talked about this before in a number of different videos, and you guys also know the reasons why it's very important to me. If you're brand new here, hello, I am Jess. I have a very complex history of mental health, and my past students, some of them have had really severe mental illness, and one even committed suicide. So for me, mental health in photography is seriously important, and I think it's not discussed enough. I hope that we can all agree on that, and today I kind of want to change that. So I want to give you guys some strategies to help with your mental well-being. Maybe you are absolutely fine now, maybe you're not. Bear in mind basically that the vast majority of us photographers are probably going to experience some of the things I'm going to discuss in this video today, and I want you to be prepared and ready with some strategies to essentially deal with that. So yeah, that's kind of what we're going to do. In terms of what my qualifications are to discuss this with you guys, I am not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, a counsellor, or any other derivative of that. However, in my history, I have met many of them. I have been incorrectly diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, re-diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I have severe generalized anxiety disorder, neurotic anxiety, and I also have gone through periods of depression, suicidal thoughts, and suicidal attempts. So you could say that I'm a little bit of an expert in all things mental health, but actually, I'm not. I'm just an expert in my own experience of mental illness and mental health. And photography has both helped me and hurt me in terms of my mental well-being, and it still does that right to this day. However, I am a very high-functioning person with mental illness, and I personally do not believe that mental illness defines me as a person. I actually think that I use my mental illnesses to create better work and to do better stuff and to be a nicer, more empathetic human being. So if you want to give me hate, go for it. Drop it down in the comments below and I will have a chuckle to them and realise, the internet's not the best place to be. Without further ado, I want to go through these things with you. But first, I think it's really important to understand why people end up with mental illnesses and what mental illnesses actually are. I don't like the term mental illness because I think it's really stigmatised. I don't think it's a nice way to discuss. I call it my brain, like how my brain works and how my brain sees the world. And sometimes my brain sees the world in ways that are slightly different to reality. I don't suffer from psychosis or delusions, so for me it's quite realistic, but for others it might not be. And I don't have eating disorders or any of the other disorders like tic disorders that would fall into mental illness. However, some of you guys might do. One thing that I think is really important to start with essentially is the big two, anxiety and depression. So anxiety and depression make up the vast majority of the population who suffer with mental illness, and I'm not going to go through the exact definitions of them with you guys today, but realistically, a lot of people tend to have symptoms of those two things, and that's kind of normalized now. You can say, oh, I'm feeling really depressed today, and you might actually not be depressed. So just be careful how you're using the terms because they can be quite difficult to hear for those who suffer with those conditions on the daily. So I made some notes for today because I don't know about you guys, but I think notes are really useful in life. So I've made some notes, and essentially I want to discuss the core causes of mental illness that's relevant for photography, which I think is really important. Other triggers that will go into that and cause a bit of a situation for you, potentially, probably, and then I also want to go through some strategies for dealing with those and making sure that you are protecting your mental well-being and your mental health throughout your period as a photographer. There are a number of wide-reaching different causes of mental illness, and we're not going to go through all of them today, but 2 of them are super relevant for photography. One of those is long-term sustained stress, which photographers, if you're doing it as a business, do tend to experience reasonably regularly. And then the other one is social isolation. Those two things really can be the catalyst for everything going a little bit wrong. You guys need to really protect yourself to make sure that they don't have a negative impact on you. You may well have had all of the other triggers happen to you at some point in your life, in which case all I can say is that I empathize with you, and I hope that you're getting the help that you need, because there is no harm or shame in asking for help. There's just not. So other stressors which would add to those 2 things would be issues with customers, cash flow, reliability issues, because as a photographer, you guys will know cash flow is not super regular and super reliable. You don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks that, you just can put in your bank account. It's very different from that. You also have family pressures or family issues, how family perceive you as going to do photography, because it's not seen as a real profession. And then there are also social media pressures and social media issues, which we're going to touch on today, because I think it is vitally important and devastating for most people's mental health. So with all those different things stacked in that little pot, they're all working against you, and you've got to work out, how do I make these either A, work for me, or B, not work against me? First thing to note is that photography, I've mentioned it before, you guys will follow the Dunning-Kruger effect, the Dunning-Kruger curve. So there will be times in your process and in your learning and in your development that you will feel like you are the worst person in the world and you can't do it right. That is normal. So do not feel despondent or like you have to give up if you're hitting that point. You should also remember the creative process. The creative process, which was shared in a tweet a few years ago, is actually brilliant because it's so true. The creative process goes like this. This is awesome. This is tricky. This is shit. I am shit. This might be okay. This is awesome. Those steps tend to be what you go through when you create a piece of work, a piece of art. And if you get stuck in point D on that list, I am shit, you are then introspectively holding your work as part of your self-worth, and that's not kind of where you want to be. So just be aware that that can happen. So let's look at these different situations that you might be in. So social isolation is a massive one. We tend to sit alone at our desks and, just work on photographs for a lot of the time. We don't tend to, unless you're working in events or weddings, meet loads of people. You tend to only meet maybe a few people, maybe your people that are coming for portrait sittings. And in some types of photography, it's even more isolating. If you're a landscape photographer or a wildlife photographer, you are solo for like all the time, and that's tough. So what can you do to protect yourself from the effects of social isolation? Number 1, you can get some hobbies. I mean, I'm not saying that photography is not a hobby, I'm just saying get a hobby that is more of a community-based thing. So for me, I personally compete in dog sports, and my friends all compete in dog sports. That's kind of normal. So you could do a hobby, you could play a sport, you could just do anything where you're in a group, really. Group stuff is great. Once a week is perfect. I would definitely suggest joining a very community-focused photography organisation. So for example, the one that springs to mind for me personally is the MPA, Master Photographers Association. The MPA have such an amazing community internally, and they do loads of social things. For example, throughout the lockdowns that we've had, they have put on daily webinars, and they do daily aperture cafes, which basically is like where everybody can get together and just chat about stuff, and it doesn't have to be photography. It can really help you if you're feeling super alone. So that would be another suggestion. Okay, so severe or long-term stress is really damaging, not just to your mental health, but to your physical health as well. I personally can attest to this. Human bodies were not meant to have stressors all of the time. It was supposed to be, oh, there's a tiger, I'm gonna get eaten, I get stressed, run away from the tiger, calm down, no stress. Unfortunately, that's not quite how it happens in 21st century, and we are bombarded with stressors all of the time. It is up to you to control those stressors. I mean, I guess the most important thing about stressors is identifying them. Identify what causes you the most stress. And if something is causing you a lot of stress, cut it out. And if you can't cut it out, look at how you can manage that stress better. So basically, I find one of the best ways to deal with stressors is to stop saying yes to everything, which can be really hard, and then look at things in a slightly different way. So instead of saying, I should do this, change the should to want. So instead of should do, it should be want to. So I want to go and reply to all of these emails. I want to go to that party where I'm going to feel miserable the whole time. And as soon as you start to reframe things in your head, you will start to alter what you do. So it's really difficult to get into this habit, but every time that you think, oh, I really should clean the car. Do you want to clean the car right now? Can you clean the car tomorrow? Let's do it tomorrow. I'm not saying that you should do this for things that are vitally important to your health or your life or someone else's health. Put some context around these things. If you find that you are having to do things all of the time that are optional, that you do not want to do, remove them from your life. There's no point dealing with anything else other than what makes you happy. I think self-care is really important here as well. I'm not going to talk to you today about exercise or eating healthily or yoga or meditation or journaling, because they're all personal choices and I'm not going to throw them on any of you because I think that that's wrong. But I would personally say that self-care is really important. So if you find it relaxing to read a book, get some books. If you find it relaxing to paint, then paint. And if you find it relaxing to just curl up in a duvet, have a duvet day and go to sleep, then you need to schedule in that time, because no one is going to schedule it in for you. You are responsible for your own self-care. Let's move on to customer issues, because customers can be an absolute freaking nightmare. I actually don't find any problems with my customers, and it baffles me when people say that they do, but I think it's because pretty early on I made firm processes and procedures that would happen and resources that the customer would receive, and then they wouldn't be able to continue in the customer journey until they had said they'd read it and other stuff like that, because I just set it out super clearly. And essentially as they go through the process they agree to certain things, so by the end of it they're kind of like, we're all on the same page. And a lot of customer issues happen when there's been a miscommunication. So if you're finding a problem happening reasonably regularly, look at your process and make sure you are managing the customer through the journey. For example, oh, I thought I was going to get an online gallery to look at my pictures. Mate, before you even took those shots, that customer should have known they were coming in for an in-person sales session, not getting them online. This should not be a surprise at the in-person sales step of the process. So if it is, sort that out, make it clearer. I personally use a vital read document, which is basically just a sheet with steps on it, and everybody knows that that's how it works, and so it's chill, pretty cool. Everybody's happy. Family opinions. Number one, you can't change your family. Like, that's it. Number two, there is no point fighting with your family over their opinions of what you do for a living. Chances are they're probably going to never think that it's a real job, and it's fine, they're not doing it, you are. And so for those of you who are struggling with family issues, I would like to remind you of one of my favourite quotes, which is, work hard in silence, let success be your noise. It doesn't matter what they think, it matters what you think of what you do, not what they think. Cash flow reliability. If you're struggling with cash flow reliability, I would genuinely suggest looking at your sales process and making sure that you're using a sales process where there is a clear deadline in terms of session happens, money happens. And if you're using online galleries, I would suggest definitely looking at in-person sales sessions, because they can be much better for reliable cash flow and also more cash, more money, more dollar in the bank account. It's the truth. Let's go to social media, because I don't want to dilly-dally around here for too long. I think personally that social media is one of the worst things to have ever been invented, and also one of the best things, and it's a very difficult balancing act, but actually a lot of people are finding social media quite damaging. I personally find Instagram a bit of a difficult platform to be on. I find obviously that the algorithm promotes really amazing pieces of work, and then you are left in a constant comparison battle of your work on you to someone else on social media, and I think that it is dangerous, genuinely dangerous. I also think that there is some form of a unspoken law about you have to follow certain people because they follow you, and if their account is making you feel less than great, then why are you following them? One way that I think is really good to look at this essentially is to go through your social media accounts and just have some scrolly through the home feeds, through the accounts that you follow, and just look and see which one of these makes me feel the worst. Does looking at this person's content enrich my life? Does it make me feel better about me? If it makes you feel like you can't do that, you'll never be able to do that, and you're constantly bombarded with images or pieces of work that you think, this is just never going to happen for me, unfollow them. Unfollow them, block them if you need to. If I make you feel crap, unfollow me. I'm okay with that. You need to do what's right for you, and if that's what's right for you, then that's what's right for you. Never stay in a toxic situation, and find a community of people who are nice to be around and have similar thoughts and feelings to you. So don't try and change yourself or make you feel like you need to change yourself to fit in with a certain crowd. If you feel that you're in the wrong crowd, change crowds. The final thing that I want to leave you guys with today is about therapy. So I have been in therapy for on and off for years. My first therapist, I think I was 11. No one else is going to help me improve myself. So if self-improvement is important to you, which it should be important to everybody, there is no harm in going and seeing a therapist. Like, there's just not. There's just really not. So, I mean, guys, I hope that that has been helpful for you. If nothing else, than to just raise the profile of mental health issues in photography, because it's just a vitally, vitally important conversation that I think we all need to have. And if you are struggling, please do go ahead and look at the links in the description below, which will take you to crisis resources and also just helpful resources that you can look through to see what you can do basically to get some help if you need it. Please protect your mental health as best you can. And if you need help, then ask for it, because there are many people here who will help you. That's all for today. I'll see you again soon.